Live as if you will die tomorrow and learn as if you will live forever. A very good evening to the august audience of Gyan Pravah, the podcast series, episode 5, being conducted under our visionary leader, Dr. Sunita Tandulwadkar, President Fogsi. Myself, Dr. Sureka Taide, Chairperson of Clinical Research Committee Fogsi, and your host for today, welcomes you to the podcast on Bringing Up Doctors, for which we have an eminent figure and towering personality from medical education and policy, Honorable Dr. Gyan Prakash Mishra, as our distinguished guest faculty. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Before we embark on this engaging discussion, I would like to welcome and introduce Dr. Sunita Tandulwadkar, President Fogsi, the Iron Lady, visionary personality, the Fogsi force, innovator, pathbreaker, trailblazing pioneer who has conceived this idea of podcast and guided us all to implement this project with elan. Dr. Tandulwadkar is a globally renowned IVF specialist, endoscopic surgeon, and visionary leader who has transformed the field of infertility treatment in India. She is the head of OBGY and chief of IVF and Endoscopy Center at Ruby Hall Clinic, Pune, founder and medical director of Solo Clinic IVF, and she has spearheaded groundbreaking advancements in assisted reproductions. Apart from these extraordinary achievements, she has earned her place in medical history by being instrumental in delivering India's first stem cell baby and the world's first at the age of 45 in 2018. Beyond her clinical contributions, she is a force in medical leadership. She is the president of Fogsi 2025. She has been she's the elect president of ISAR and founder president of the Society of Ovarian Rejuvenation. Her contributions to academia are equally remarkable, authoring 18 books, over 85 publications, editor-in-chief of Indian Journal of Gynecological Endoscopy, and various contributions including 400 national and international conferences. Her outstanding contributions have achieved her various recognitions, including the Bharat Gaurav Puraskar, and she has also received the letter of appreciation from the President of India. Dr. Sunita Tandulwadkar is not just a doctor. She is an innovator, a mentor, a beacon of hope for thousands of couples struggling in fertility. And also for us Foxians, she is a visionary leader with international repute. We welcome you, madam, and request you to deliver the welcome address.
Thank you, Sureka. Thank you, first of all, for your kind word. And thank you, Dr. Mishraji, to accept the invitation of Dr. Sureka and be here with us. When Sureka extends the invitation, it is on behalf of Fogsi. Friends, Gyan Pravah is a brilliant podcast series which I have started. I'm saying it is brilliant because we get to have the podcast with the brilliant field people from academics, from professionals, from spiritual, from political, from any background. And 30 committee chairpersons have been given 30 days. So if Dr. Sureka is coming on 2nd February, she will be always on 2nd of every month. This is how the pattern is going. And whichever month has 31st, I'll be doing as I have done yesterday with spirituality in medicine. Friends, my team members, this committee chairperson are taking huge efforts in getting not only the best of the faculty, the visionary, to have the dialogue with them for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, but they are also showing their creativity beyond their post or beyond their chairperson post. So every day, 8 p.m., it is the same link every day. So we did not change the link, and I expect you all. You may be having dinner, you may be driving, just put the Bluetooth and listen to my team members. They are working very hard every day for this Gyan Pravah series. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ved Prakash ji. I don't have, when I read your biodata, I thought this podcast I need to join to give our regards from Foxy to you, sir.
I'm honored, ma'am. Thank you very much.
It's honor to be in the frame with you, sir. And I hand over back to Surekha.
Thank you very much.
Very much, ma'am, for being with us. It is an absolute honor and privilege to welcome a towering figure in medical education, healthcare policy, and bioethics, Professor of Eminence, Professor of Excellence, Professor Emeritus, and Distinguished Professor, Honorable Dr. Ved Prakash Mishra, to our podcast on Bringing Up Doctors. A visionary academic leader, Dr. Mishra has made an unparalleled impact on medical education, ethical governance, and policy making in India and beyond. He is the recipient of prestigious Dr. B.C. Roy National Award, which is India's highest recognition for medical professionals, in honor of his contribution as an eminent medical teacher. With 7 honorary doctorates and an impressive 102 registered copyrights in medical education, his scholarly work is truly pioneering. He has played a pivotal role in shaping India's medical education policies, closely associated with NMC, that is our National Medical Commission, contributing at highest level. And he has served as the chairperson of the National Task Force on Medical Education under the National Academy of Medical Sciences, Government of India. His leadership has also been within the IMA is equally profound. Chairman of the National Medical Education Board, Special Advisor at the IMA headquarters. Renowned authority on bioethics, he holds key positions in the international ethics body as well, serving as the Secretary General of the International Council of Global Network for Medical Health Professions and Bioethics Education, and member of the International Committee for Bioethics for Asia Pacific. Beyond academia and beyond these advisory roles, he is deeply engaged in academic governance of several universities. There are so many in number, sir. So many universities you are governing. Thank you so very much. And he is also presently serving as the principal advisor to Krishna Vishwavidyapit and pro-chancellor and chief advisor to Datta Meghe Institute of Higher Education and Research, guiding institutions towards excellence in medical education. On a personal front, I am privileged to have received guidance and mentorship from Sir while traversing the path of medical education technology and beyond in my professional life. I truly admire you, sir, and truly look up to you. Welcoming you, sir, it is a very much privilege for all of us Foxian to welcome you to this podcast.
Thank you very much, Surekha. You have been too liberal and widely benevolent. I salute and thank you for that.
Madam?
Dr. Mishra, Ved Prakash sir, I will be joining from the delegates link now, and I request Surekha to continue the interviewing and having a dialogue with you. Thank you. It's
Thank you,
honor.
thank you. Really, gratefully thankful to you.
Thank you.
So let us begin this wonderful and thrilling session with Sir. Honorable Dr. Mishra sir, your career is a testament to a lifelong dedication to medical education. I remember my own undergraduate days when we used to throng to your debates to listen to you, and almost till recently, your extraordinary orations have been there at various forums. You have been inspiring us over decades. So I would like to ask, what motivated you to become a torchbearer for this field?
Thank you very much, Surekha. It has always been a very pleasant association with your good self for almost a period which is more than 3.5 decades. I'm so very happy that I have seen Dr. Surekha grow and grow from an undergraduate student now not only to be a personality to reckon with, but absolutely you're a persona in your own way. And therefore, you asking me as to how exactly I took up things, I can only put across in one word, my story is no different from yours. And perhaps you and me mimic on this particular story of being committed for a passion and cause that we espouse and take up dear to ourselves. In regard to your query, I will not put that as a query. All of us do have our own inclinations, which definitely not only guide us, but also they shape us as to what exactly destiny puts on our shoulders to be dispensing with. I have no hesitation in putting across that I come from a very humble background, and therefore I have seen what exactly are the struggles of life. But one thing which I can vouch is whatever little I am and whatever little I could do, the primary inspiration, the guiding force, the beacon's light, whom I have always been dedicating the entire espousing, is my late mother. It was this lady who was a illiterate woman. But she knew it for certain, and she emphasized that ultimately it is the education which is expected to be the real prowess, not only of a decent and dignified living, but also of a meaningful contribution to the larger good of the society as a whole. There are several reasons and incidents which I would not like to put them across. But it was my mother's fancy that she was always of an ardent thought that I should take up MBBS as a career. And it was her ardent desire that it's not only the service part of it. Ultimately, it is the update of the education as a process, which is equally more important. And I cannot forget her word. It's very easy to cater for a child, but it's very difficult to cater to the cause of the mother, who is the cause of that child. And therefore, the basic lesson which I could derive out of her was that healthcare through healthcare professionals will never be feasible to its ultimate and desired outcome till such time the educational system out of which the trained professional is going to be generated is not only sound, but it is robust as well. Therefore, our emphasis on the mother repository being strong. And our example, Dr. Surekha, used to be very simple. My nickname was put by her as Pappu. And she always used to say, ki beta maa agar pukhta hogi, to hi santati pukhta hogi. It was this analogy of hers which became virtually the bedrock of my life. And one of the cardinal thoughts which always clicked my mind was that if the educational system is structured properly, in tandem with the challenges that we are facing in the contemporary times, in terms of the concerns which are required to be addressed to the futuristic developmental profile, it is imperative that we are in a position to put our entire system structurally first and operationally later to be effective, efficacious, and outcome-based. I again put across that I am very fortunate enough that at a very young age, I got electoral breakthroughs, as a result of which, in spite of my very tall academic career plagued by recognitions, medals, and prizes, I was elected to the Senate of Nagpur University when I was only 24 years of age from the teachers' constituency. I was elevated to the office of the Chairman Board of Studies when I myself was doing my MD degree way back in 1980. 1982, I could become the Dean of the Faculty, thereby earning the distinction of being the youngest ever Dean of the Faculty of Medicine of a university. And finally, in the year 1985, I was elected to the Maharashtra Medical Council. And the next year, I was elected as the youngest ever member of the Medical Council of India. Now, these entire pursuits, which gave me not only visibility, but also gave me an opportunity, made me focus entirely onto the educational profiling of medical education in this country. Because right from a board of studies, which can be taken to be the most unitary functional unit in the educational parlance, till the Medical Council of India, which is is the policy making for the entire profile of education, In a span of 5 years, I got the opportunity of being a part of this entire spectrum. Therefore, I can say I had the first-hand experience of as to what the policy making and what the policy process execution is in regard to effectivity of an educational system, which we can put across from the domain of pin to piano. And therefore, that has really shaped the understanding of it. And the opportunities in terms of contributing thereof was immense. It is the functioning of a university, it's the shaping of the curriculum in a board of studies, it is the discussion in the academic council as the competent body, it is the managerial propositions in the executive councils of the universities, the registration and the processes in a state council, and ultimately the structuring of the entire education for the country through Medical Council of India. Luckily, with my mother's blessings and desire, it came in my life at a very early age, which were my formative years of life. Like I say, I could form the medical education of this country because I was formed by the medical education itself. Therefore, to me, it was absolutely something which I wanted to return back to the system, which placed me in an opportunity whereby the contributions were possible, feasible, and permissible. I can put it across, Dr. Surekha, that it was not just an ideation. All of us have huge ideas, but destiny was kind that with the ideation, with the observation, with being part of not only being executed, but also an executor in the various capacities, and finally also being at the helm of affairs of a decision making authority and a body. Absolutely, I think that if I am not in a position to dispense, maybe there are very few ones who are blessed with this sort of an opportunity. The only determination which I got from my mother's spirit was, let this opportunity not go astray. If a poor man like me from a poor family got recognition of being distinction of a medical graduate, which perhaps was the first graduate in that particular domain in our generations taken together, there could not have been a better payback for me taking up the responsibility and onus of putting that back in whatever little frame it was. Therefore, I can put it across very candidly. It was a kindled spirit, which I take it to be a destiny, in which the operational stimulus was my mother, and rest was all a committed walk with purpose, with passion, with pursuance, and with perseverance, which has resulted in invocation of these dividends. I only think that destiny always puts across its own designs. And maybe that I was fortunate enough that destiny put that responsibility maybe on my head for whatever reasons unknown to me. To me, my destiny was my mother. And to me, my destination was medical education. Therefore, I have tried to live only a correlation between the destiny, the destination, and the design to walk consistently on it with purpose, focus, understanding, devotion, passion, and unending zeal. That's all I can say on it.
Absolutely wonderful, sir. It's amazing just to listen to you. And I can relate to so many things. Like you talked of your mom, our mother, that is the one who guides. And of course, your dedication, your passion, the opportunities you have got, and when number of people get opportunities, but dedicatedly walking that particular path and reaching to this eminence. It is really inspiring for us all the way you have walked the talk. Thank you so much, sir, for leading us, for inspiring us. Sir, I have been, in medical education for long as well, more than 25 years now. I have seen traditional education, I have seen competency-based education, and now I know, I have seen you being deeply involved in shaping this competency-based medical education framework. In fact, you have been instrumental in and being a transforming force for this paradigm shift. I've seen that happening in front of me. Sir, I would like to ask, what was your thought process behind this shift? What do you think about this thought process, and how will it equip the future doctors, the competency-based medical education?
Dr. Sunita, it's a known fact in the world that Indian doctors on any and every soil over several decades They have turned out to be passionate, committed, devoted doctors with extraordinary clinical skills, and they have impacted and created a niche for themselves in any and every specialty, which goes to indicate that the quest for modern medicine in India, through the operational systems that must have been in vogue, they definitely have produced men of caliber, competence. Therefore, to say that there was omissions in the system, there were lacunae in the system, it would be absolutely being unjust. But as a matter of fact, there are certain propositions which have to be taken note of. I'm not dwelling into the detailed history, but three benchmarks, if we take note of, which ultimately were my understanding on taking this entire, voyage in a defined and a determined manner was, all of us know that the institutionalization of the modern medicine educational system, it came to be invoked out of the Flexner's report, which was the milestone path breaking in the year 1910, followed by the Canadian experiment report of 1914, and the institutionalization of the medical education as a systemic education came into operation for the entire world out of the Flexner's report. Now, this was the model which lasted, and imagine when in the year 1947 we got free, ultimately because we were there under the colonial rule of the Britishers. Therefore, the model of modern medicine education which was in vogue was the British model. And even we are continuing that British model in the context of Flexnerian model as worked out by the Britishers. That is the model of medical education, which the primary education which we can say is, here I am wanting to be taking correlation of dates, which is important. 1910 Flexner's report comes into operation, 1914 Canadian experiment outcome comes into operation, and therefore we can say that by 1915 the institutional system of medical education across the world came into vogue, and luckily how we match with it. In the year 1916, arising out of the recommendations of the British Education Commission constituted by Lord Curzon in 1904, Indian Medical Degrees Act came to be regulated by the British Parliament. And the net result was that medical schools in India, they became entitled to confer Indian medical degrees for the first time after 1916. Modern medicine education for the world, Flexner's model coming into operation into 1914-15, and Indian Medical Degrees Act coming into operation in 1916. Therefore, we can say that this perhaps was a holy match which got together as a part of the larger equation. 1934, another important benchmark was that the British Parliament created Indian Medical Council under the Indian Medical Council Act, as a result of which under Indian Medical Degrees Act, graduates and the practitioners who will be generated out of the Indian medical schools, they would be now entitled to be registered in the register which will be called as Indian Medical Register from 1934. Therefore, that was the second landmark, because prior to that, even with Indian Medical Degrees Act learners getting degrees, their registration was with the General Medical Council of Britain. At the time of independence, I'm just putting across an important milestone picture. We were 17 medical schools on 15th of August 1947, with an annual intake of 960 for the undergraduate students. 1956, arising out of the first Indian Commission Education report penned by Dr. Radhakrishnan and his committee, two important legislative enactments came into operation. One was the University Grants Commission Act of 1956, and second was Indian Medical Commission Act 1956, repealing the 1934 Act, as a result of which first Medical Council of India for Indian medical education came into operation, headed by an Indian, by Bharat Ratna Dr. Vidhan Chandra Roy as the first president of Medical Council of India. And therefore, from there the journey begins. And if you take into consideration today, when I am talking to you, we are 810 medical schools in the world, which is the highest number. The annual intake capacity for the graduate medical course in India has turned out to be 122,000 as against 960 in 1947. And when I say this, in all humility, we need to admire and appreciate that 20235 predictions which have been made by the WHO in regard to invocation of the registered medical practitioners in the world. Every third modern medicine graduate in the world will be from Indian medical colleges, which goes to indicate that in terms of the churning capacity of the numbers that you and me have been able to create in our situation, we are even today the largest producers of trained health manpower in the world. The world needs India. The world needs Indian doctors. The world needs Indian medical graduates. And therefore realize the shift which has taken from Flexner's model to 1970, the model in which me and followed by me, your generation has been trained, is the WHO model, which was the improvisation of the Flexner's model, which has been designated as Rome model or reorientation of medical education model. But in the year 2010, the Lancet Commission report, which was constituted by the various health commissioners of the leading countries sponsoring medical education, in which India was also had one of the educational commissioners, came out with a report of 2010, which is called as Lancet Commission report. And the medical education model for 21st century has been put across as transformative model. So let us take a look at it. 1910, it is a formative model. 1907, it is a reformative model, and 2010 is a transformative model. In the year 2009, when Platinum Jubilee celebration of the Medical Council of India was there, and because I was a part of the Lancet Commission, one of the things was that we need to chart out a path to put Indian medical education onto the path of transformative model of medical education. This necessitated three things. A, faculty development program for the purposes of handling and structuring of the curriculum, including invocation of modes of teaching, learning, assessment, and continuing medical education. Second important aspect was, apart from faculty development program, structuring of the curriculum. And structuring of the curriculum in the tunes of what has been put across as problem-based learning approach, and therefore the competency-based model. 2011, the report was accepted, and therefore we began a journey. I was the chairman of the Academic Council of the Medical Council of India then. Therefore, again, as I said, destiny put this responsibility on my head. And after 4 years of extensive research work referring to entirety, we were able to ready undergraduate competency-based model education document to be rolled out for the purposes of implementation. 2017, we were able to ready postgraduate medical competency-based medical education document. And I'm happy to share with you, in 2018-19, the country rolled out its entire competency-based model of medical education across all the medical colleges. Therefore, in all humility, let us admit that today, the structure of medical education in India being run through 810 medical schools is totally aligned to the transformative model of medical education as envisioned in Lancet Commission, which goes to indicate that now that the first batch of the undergraduates has already been passed out in the said model, we are not generating this model into Indian medical graduates. This eye of Indian medical graduates to the world now means international medical graduate. Graduates, postgraduates that are now being created out of this system to cater to the cause of the global health, not just Indian health. This is the paradigm in which we are required to think. And I conclude by important landmark. This entire effort which was undertaken, the icing on the cake, Dr. Sunita, was on 20th of September 2023, when World Federation of Medical Education recognized Indian national regulator for a period of 10 years up to 233, which was a real national recognition because India was recognized by the World Federation of Medical Education for the first time. The net result is, as a result of that, because 706 medical colleges have produced their batches out, all of them have now been included in the directory of medical schools, international directory maintained by WFME. And can you imagine? Today, with pride, you and me can vouch that WFME Global Directory includes highest number of medical schools in the world, singularly from India, which is more than that of USA, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, whole of Europe, and Singapore taken together. This is where Indian medical of education stands in terms of structural conformity, operational difficulties, internal situations. There are yawning gaps which are required to be done. Greatest achievement is structurally we are totally aligned to the transformative model of medical education, and maybe with the incorporation of the credit system of assessment, including the internationalization of the credits, the global equity that we are contemplating is absolutely going to be a matter of time. And we have set out a timeline by which, in my task force report to the government of India, that has been taken care of. Therefore, I can vouch. A journey which was humble journey, which we started in the year 2010. By 2025, we will be in a position to completely across the whole spectrum of medical education into transformative model, so as to be a global power to reckon with. And therefore, I humbly say, rightly put across by the Honorable Prime Minister, that India was a Vishwaguru and India has to be a Vishwaguru. The first arena and domain of education which will make Vishwaguru the confer title to India rightly, legitimately, and deservedly is medical education, and medical education. That is exactly, I can vouch to the entire country.
Absolutely amazing, sir. I just, feel dumbstruck and some speechless when I keep listening to you. And yes, I feel so proud, to be an Indian. And like you said, India is a Vishwaguru. And Vishwaguru not only producing numbers, not only those numbers, but now we are at par. We are aligned. We can proudly say now we are having that competency-based medical graduates and not Indian graduates. We are now international graduates. And that is where visionary leaders like you taking this, us to that level, that is what India is. And that is what we feel really proud of. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us this gift of competency-based medical education and taking us through the journey with you. Thank you so much. So I would like to take this discussion forward. Like you said, we have more than 800 medical colleges and more are, being proposed. There's a rapid increase in these medical colleges. And we have heard that one is proposed for each district and, of the country. While this improves the access to medical education, how do you see it affecting the quality of training? Many times, people are just, worried whether the quality of training would be affected, and how can we ensure that these standards, remain uncompromised when we increase the numbers?
You have raised a very right concern, and this concern is very genuine, very logical, well founded, and it is felt across by anybody and everybody who knows the system and also who is either a beneficiary or otherwise watching from a distance. I totally agree with you, and absolutely there cannot be a dispute that the quantitative expansion was mandated and we have won that race. But the real test is quality. And therefore, quality centricity in the domain of education, and more so a skill-based education like medical education, is paramount. There are 2 or 3 concerns which we need to address because of the historical reasons. The emergence of unaided private education sector. And after the Supreme Court judgment of 2002 in TMA Pai Foundation case, which is also a landmark judgment delivered by 13 honorable judges, has validated the system of unaided private education, which means cost-based education is now validly permitted in India. Therefore, a major shift which has taken place is that education which was expected to be the onus and responsibility of the state, that education that you and me have been creation of, is subsidized education, merit-based education. Imagine If you and me were to be a part of the unaided educational system, perhaps we would have never been able to dream of being a part of it. But the reality is now two streams of medical education have come into operation because of the historical reasons, and we have therefore reached on a point of no return. One, there has to be a balance between the two. The standardization in terms of structure we have attained, but now we have to deal with the operations. Faculty development program, Dr. Sunita, was one of the important cardinal features that until and unless the full-time teachers of this country are put into adequate training and orientation for handling and execution of the curriculum, it will be tough and difficult, and that job is being done, but still there is a wanton gap. The nature of the structure that we have for the training and development and capacity building for full-time medical teachers in terms of the growing and multiplying numbers, they are definitely inadequate. And therefore, my thinking, which of course I am using this particular forum of Fogsi and rightly so, is that higher education has an element of academic staff colleges under the UGC, where all the full-time teachers in higher education periodically are required to be institutionally trained by specialized mechanisms across the country. Like if I speak for Nagpur University, Gondwana University, and Amravati University have an academic staff college for all three of them located in Nagpur, which is called as University Academic Administrative College, where the only job round the clock is capacity building of the teachers through structured programs. Why academic staff colleges not cover medical education was the haunting question, which I have put it candidly, that the broadening the scope of these academic staff colleges by incorporating the wing of medical experts who are now duly trained in good numbers. You have done your ME, n number of students have done their PhD. These can be the resource faculty who could be aligned to, depending upon their geographic location, as required visiting faculties to be managing the medical orientation wing of teachers as we are managing through the nodal and regional centers. Academic staff colleges broadened can take cover of that. That will enhance teaching, learning, handling of the curriculum, execution of the curriculum, assessment, because ultimately 360-degree assessment. One has to learn, one has to create an ambience for it, one has to create a milieu for it, and one has to create an environment for it. There are bottlenecks, there are challenges, but we still have not been in a position to work out that information and communication technology based education is also an important education. And Corona pandemic has definitely given us a leverage. Therefore, virtual learning management systems, the standardized patient systems, the various intellectual and the various softwares which are available even in the domain of worked out devices, all of them have to be now planned to be incorporated in the system of medical education. One of the important shifts which transformative model contemplates in Lancet Commission is the concept of individual medical colleges is no more relevant. Standalone institutions will never be in a position to thrive in this competitive age. Therefore, from individual standalone institutions, we have to go to a cluster approach, clustering of the medical schools together, pooling of the medical schools together, virtually the using of the national resource of the pooled faculty for if there can be a countrywide classroom in higher education. Why should there not be a countrywide classroom of the eminent national faculty designated by the competent authority? If I am to plan, why Dr. Sunita should not be available? Why she should be restricted only to DMHER? How is it that she will be in a position to be made available to the entire country in terms of her prowess to be put across to each one and everybody? Skill component grouping is necessary. Cognitive component grouping is necessary. National countrywide clustering is necessary. There is now a plan which is going on this. And therefore, I'm telling you, the concerns and challenges today, Dr. Sunita, we are in a transition period. Transition period will always have its hiccups. These hiccups we have to tide over in time because only 10 years time is with us. Our recognition by WFME is going to end in 2033. We have to put this entire operational system, including accrediting mechanism. We today do not have certifying mechanisms for this quality centricity of medical schools. National Assessment and Accreditation Council is not meant for medical education. The NMC provides for an accreditation board, but even today we are talking of recognition as accreditation, which we will have to change. There are catalog challenges, there are catalog concerns. There is every apprehension, rightly so, in the minds of the people that maybe the quality will suffer. But I am availing this podcast for the purposes of assuring the country that we are on the right track. Concerns and challenges are identifiable. The Government of India, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and all agencies are keen about it. With the integration of the pooled resource manpower, including of the experts, n number of things are under the plan and they will be absolutely put across into implementation. And I trust and believe that by virtue of our ascendancy onto the quantity, even quality as a concern is being addressed too strongly. And we will definitely work out the modes, modalities, mechanisms through incorporation of tools, techniques, and technologies, judicious use of technology, which will be in a position to take care of our present problems. These transitional problems, they are there under consideration. They are vigilantly under active consideration and several steps. Of course, it would be too premature for me to put this across publicly because these are the discussions which take place at the policy making level, but I can assure on one count. The path of Mother India onto the journey of medical education in the domain of quality and quality centricity, emerging as a front runner in the landscape and committee of nations, is an inevitable reality which stands scripted, which is neither avoidable nor stoppable. Direction, of course, we are a huge number. Contemplate whenever I address a global forum, everybody is surprised. The other day, when I was talking to my counterparts in UK in a meeting, they said, Dr. Mishra, we are not in a position to put uniformity in 37 medical schools in UK. How is it you have been in a position to put uniformity in 810 schools in India? So there are n number of things which we have been able to evoke. The world is wonderstruck. But let me assure you, concerns and challenges, of course, nobody has a magic wand that we will be in a position to get rid of them in one go. There are regional disparities, there are institutional disparities, there are inequities, there are constraints, there are problems. There cannot be a uniformity of scale, but still there is a way out, and that way out is being worked out. Good number of things are already being put into it, and I can only assure you from here, we are on the right path and we will not let the gains that Mother India has been able to work up in its lap squander in any way, lest history does not forgive us.
Thank you, sir. I think it's really reassuring, to know that systems is already in place. And rightly said, we have to train the teachers. The trainers themselves have to acquire the skills to give that quality. And like you said, I have gone through the medical education, the masters, I have done the FAMER, an advanced course, as rightly, our university has, trained so many teachers. And there is a pool of competent and trained and dedicated, skilled teachers, as you rightly said. That cluster is there. And you have really shown us that system where we will be able to maintain the quality. But, sir, look at all this. We feel that there are challenges for the students as well. Academic rigor on one side, burnout. We are being hearing so many stories and in the news about the burnout. The need to balance technical skills and humanistic qualities. How do you think institutions should address these technical skills and balancing the humanistic qualities? How can we balance that? How do you advise?
I think you have raised a very, very pertinent issue, which needs to be really looked at from 360 degrees angle. If you ask me, the major shift that has taken place, I will underline the fact, and that is the teacher-centric model of medical education now totally stands transformed to learner-centric model of medical education. Now, when I say transitional, even on this count, it is transitional. We still have not reconciled that the model of education has to be learner-centric. We still are having a judicious mix of the two, which most of the times get tilted to the teacher centricity of the model. Dr. Surekha, I would like just to remind you, in the year 2001, in the global summit at Paris, where the entire document for higher education for 21st century came into being, one of the important aspects which came to be discussed, which I'm putting as a slogan, was that what shall be the role of teachers in the 21st century education? And then it was put across as in one phrase was, no more a sage on the center stage, comma, but a facilitator in the green room. This is the idea of learner centricity which we need to bear in mind. Definitely, medical education and medical curriculum and medical, entire working load, which is full of definitely stress as compared to any other model of medical education. Tough to handle, difficult to cope up. Therefore, learner supportive strategies in the ambience is a must. It's not just enough to say that the model is learner centric. Learner centricity cannot and should not be only on the paper. It should not just be on thought. It has to be put into operational reality. And this is exactly where I would like to bring Charak into picture. What did he say? How exactly you are required to be treating your patient? You will be advised to be, you are directed, the eti adesha iti upadesha, this is the only advice to you, that what way you would have treated your son, what way you would have treated your father, what way you would have treated your mother is the same way that you are required to be treating your son. Therefore, paternalistic approach of education is an answer to the concern. Challenges of the learner can be addressed only by an attitude of concern, attitude of compassion, which is merited and which is required and which is necessary. Therefore, orientation of the learner into life skills and also inculcating the values of paternalistic educational ambience amongst the minds of you and me as teachers. And the rule is simple. The way I'm concerned about my child, if I am in a position to put this across, this child in my class also as my child, and instead of being a mother of one child, if I learn to become the mother and father of the 100 and odd children in my class, the attitudinal gap is covered. The gap of concern stands mitigated. The gap of robotic differentiation, which perhaps is stealing into the vitals of the entire system. There are certain humanistic answers to it. Humanistic value inculcation, rationalistic inculcation in terms of our emotional self to a larger self. These are personalized connotations, but they have to be structured in the form of teaching and training. Learners have to be equipped with stress coping skills. We presume that the adult learner is in a position to handle on its own. No transition can be handled by anybody with ease. It is only to be worked out with supportive mechanisms. Therefore, there is a need, how exactly the coping strategy, this clinico-psychological mapping of the learner, assessing them scientifically, keeping a confidential record of the same, creating the guidance and supportive mechanisms which rise to the occasion. Some good example that can be put across is we ourselves are resorting to all these situations and we are trying to support them up. Until and unless fallback, support, confidence building, and above all, mechanisms where the learner is made to feel that he is an important entity into the entire frame, he is being taken care of, he is under the concern, not only under discipline, but he is also under concern. Facilitation and then monitoring. These are the two arms which are required to be balanced in a system. Our whole problem is we are more interested in monitoring and hardly any interest in facilitation. And it is not in terms of the individuals. There have always been concerned and compassionate teachers, and there have also been indifferent and absolutely non-caring teachers. These are human vagaries. But if the systems are worked out and the averaging and leveraging is done, take it from me, things can be taken care of. Attitudinal incorporation, humanistic indulgence, life skills, and creation of the systems of learner centricity, including redressal, fallback, and facilitatory mechanism. There is a very beautiful model which has been worked out on this particular count. I will share this with you. These are the models which have been there into place in good number of developed countries. we are also required to be building on the same lines, which, of course, as I said, it will not be just we will be in a position to create out of a blue. It takes its time, but need for the purposes of orientation onto these propositions, both teachers, managers, administrators, and learners, including parents. Educational system is a triangle of three stakeholders: parents as stakeholders, learners as stakeholders, faculty and educational administrators as stakeholders. This is the rectangle. If it is put into proper invocation of a functional system towards catering to the learner centricity, student centricity, things have been worked out in the world and we should not lag behind on that count. These are the concerns. Finally, ultimately, you are readying the learner. You and me are only the purpose of it, but who is the cause of it? Just as Indian banking industry, Dr. T.M.A. Pai, founder of the Canara Bank, he gave one slogan. Whenever the bank employee is in the bank, the only thought that should be there in his mind is he is not obliging the customer. The customer is giving him an opportunity of his rightful aim to be served with decency, dignity, ease, and elegance. Four important parables he says. Learners, dignity. Therefore, learner is entitled for decency. Learner is entitled for ease. And learner is entitled for elegance. Four quadrant approach, 360 degrees. If served, it is not only a satisfied learner, it is a learner who is absolutely an integral part of the system to be espousing the system as a whole. And this is exactly where it lies. So, all said and done, primacy of learner is the real test and mark of learner centricity. Just as it is said, all roads lead to Rome. In a similar way, all roads should lead to learners' welfare, who ought to be taken at the center, taking it to be he is the real purpose of it. Rest is all attributable meaning. The center of the entire profile should be the learner, the learner, the learner. Let us shift this paradigm. We will be able to generate the answers on their own.
Absolutely, sir. And I think that is the message from this podcast. I think that first and foremost, it is the learner. The humanistic qualities has to come from the teacher. I think teachers have to be inculcate those qualities so that we can our system is focused only on the learner. And absolutely that mentor.
Just a comment. I mean, you raised it, therefore it suddenly struck to me. In one of my discourses, I had put it across very candidly when I said, I read Napoleon, and Napoleon says, quote, give me good mothers and I will give you a good nation. End quote. I read Chanakya. He says, give me good teachers and I will give you a good nation. And prima facie, I find that there is a conflict. One says, give me good mothers and I will give you a good nation. Other says, give me good teachers and I will give you a good nation. I said, it is neither mothers in isolation nor teachers in isolation. Modification is, give me motherly teachers and I shall give you the best nation.
Wonderful, sir. Sir, finally to wrap up, it has been a wonderful, engaging session with you. I wish I could just, time could stop and we could just converse over this. But, the time is always a constraint. So finally, sir, we have talked about teachers, we have talked about systems. What would be your one piece of advice to the aspiring doctors? Our profession is a noble profession, but we now have students who are, dilemmas are there. What would be that one piece of advice you would like to give to our aspiring doctors as a final from your side?
The whole purpose of incorporation of the affective domain of the curriculum. Please try to understand. Now we have to live to the objectives that are now universal in character. What are the objectives that we have set out for our entire spectrum of health professional education? We want to generate confident, competent, concerned, and compassionate healthcare professionals. Who shall be what? Who ought to be? Good clinicians, good professionals, good communicators, good leaders of the health team, effective self-directed learners, lifelong learners, critical thinkers, and keen researchers. This is the rainbowic dimension. My only humble one-line message is acquire all these qualities not for certification. Adopt them as a way of life. Take it for granted. Healthcare professional's life is the most decent, dignified, self-respecting, inspiring, and above all, an exemplary life. This is the path. And if the learner is committed to this path out of the acquiescence of this rainbowic 7 attributes, to be executing his confidence and competence in the lap of concern and compassion, take it from me. The world will be a beautiful place for human habitation, and the world will be an extraordinary place, not just to be hollowly using as a part of the noble profession, but as noblest of the noble profession. That is what the real message is.
Yes, sir.
It cannot be that the generalized values are this. The real conflict that you and me are plagued with is the conflict between the price and the value. We need to only keep one thing in mind. Price and value are not interchangeable. That perhaps, which is priceless alone, is valuable.
Absolutely, sir. And I feel proud today to be a doctor and to have chosen this profession.
So
And
we
another thing I'm proud of, to be a medical teacher. Both things together. And I really feel humble, sir, to have hosted this program today live with you as an eminent guest speaker. This is a really high point of my life, and I'm immensely thankful to you for the honor, for the privilege, for taking out your time, for giving us these valuable insight, for making us feel proud of ourselves as doctors, as the noblest of noble professionals, and as medical teachers. Thank you very, very much, sir. And I would also like to thank the audience for being there, for being the purpose, like you said. The learner is the purpose, here the audience is the purpose. And I would like to thank Foxy. I'd like to thank Foxy President Dr. Sunita Tandulwadkar for being the means of the end. And yes, as a host for today's podcast, I would like to encourage the listeners to reflect on the issues which we have been discussing, to discuss them, and to share their thoughts on the forums. And I invite all of you audience to follow this podcast and for more enriching conversations, be with Foxy. As the host for you today, I, Dr. Surekha Taide, would like to sign off, wishing you a very good evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Nice sharing with you. Obliged.